It's time for Topic of the Show, and this week we're talking State of Decay 2. Allie got some hands-on time playing a lot of that game over the past few days, few weeks, few days.
Oh, no, yeah, 3 days.
Like a week total, maybe?
Yeah, I would say about like 5 or 6 days.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I actually don't know much about State of Decay or State of Decay 2. I didn't play the original version. Do you remember when it came out? Was it on Xbox 360 originally, Allie?
Yes. The first game originally came out on Xbox 360, and then they released the year... God, they released a re-release on Xbox One.
Okay.
It's actually a good question.
Yeah, because
I don't want to be wrong.
I guess in case I hadn't mentioned it before, I actually didn't have an Xbox 360. An Xbox One is my first Xbox console, so I feel like I'm a little out of the loop there, and that's probably why I myself haven't thought about this game too much to get hyped over it, because I have no context around it.
So basically, and I did review the Year One Survival Edition that came out on Xbox One. I'm sorry, I had to double check because I wasn't sure if they named it Year One or Year Zero for some reason. But yeah, so it originally came out on Xbox 360, and then they re-released it on Xbox One, and I reviewed that for Girls on Games. My review is still available up there on the website.
Right.
So yeah, I don't want to say like I'm an old hand at State of Decay, but I do have a history with the series. Mm-hmm. And I was a fan. I was a fan of the Xbox 360 version, as well as the State of Decay Year One Survival Edition that came out on Xbox One. They're buggy.
Okay. The original ones were buggies too?
Yeah, they were buggy. Even the Year One edition was also buggy, and that was kind of my major complaint with it. But the gameplay and the idea has always been fun. Okay. So it's the end of the world. You play as a group of survivors who set up base and have to forage and search for supplies necessary to keep your base up and running and to keep your group happy and healthy.
And is this the concept of the continuation in State of Decay 2, or is this what you had in State of Decay 1?
It's kind of the overarching gameplay mechanics of the series thus far. Okay. So that's exactly what happens in State of Decay 2. You pick, when you first boot up the game, you're greeted with a selection of characters. Mm-hmm. They come in sets of 2. All of them are randomly generated, so they have, their stats padded out already. They have, quirks, both positive and negative. Okay. And they also have some sort of relationship with one another. So they come, like I said, they come in sets of 2. So some of them, are a couple. Some of them are brother and sister. Some of them, stuff like that. And then you're kind of put into the middle of the apocalypse, or the end of the apocalypse, I guess. It's happened. Things are bad, and you're just trying to make things work at this point. You go through a short tutorial where you're going through an army base. And then you take off in a car with a few other survivors that you pick up along the way through the tutorial, and try and start off your new life. And it's not a very strong beginning to the game, but it's very short. So it's, if you're new to the series and you need to know the basics, it does a good job of teaching that, and kind of getting it out of the way quickly so you can just go and explore.
So I was very aware when you said the word "was a fan," but before we get into that, I want to know, what are the game mechanics of this of State of Decay 2?
It's basically, like I said, you play a group of survivors. So you start off as 4 in this game. You can switch from character to character. Okay. Because your characters will get tired, they will get injured, they will need to rest. So you cycle through them. And you pick out a home base, and you start to build up your stock of supplies. So food, medicine, building materials, gas, ammo. And you need to keep those stocks, stocked up. Because it will affect the capabilities of your base, as well as your group's mood.
So is it borderline resource management?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's very heavy on the resource management. You have to go out and, find new locations where you'll be able to find food and medicine, and there's a very very random aspect to the game.
Okay.
So, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, you'll get an infestation will spawn, you know, 2 streets over, and that can affect the mood of your group. So you want to go and get that infestation, take care of it, knock all those zombies down. You know, a juggernaut, which is this giant zombie who's very resistant to pretty much everything, might spawn near the base and affect their mood and you know, kind of freak them out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I have restarted my game 3 times right now.
Okay.
And I know that sounds scary, but it's actually been an awesome experience because State of Decay is a lot of trial and error. Mm-hmm. Because you never know, like you could, when I first started up my game, I was putting a lot of effort into making sure my food stockpiles were low. But then I was out on a food run, and my main character, who had the best stats and who I really enjoyed playing, ended up getting injured. And when I went back to the base, my medical supplies had diminished, and I couldn't heal her.
Oh no.
And so, yeah, like you kind of have to, what I've learned over starting my game 3 times is you have to be very careful. You have to pick and choose your battles. You have to prioritize things. You have to just go about things very carefully and very slowly, I think is the key to playing State of Decay. And what I discovered restarting my game is once you've played through the tutorial once, they don't force you to go through it again. So you have
interesting.
You have 3 save slots in the game.
Okay.
So when you pick a second save slot, you have the option to redo the tutorial or go right into starting the game. And I chose to skip the tutorial because, you know, I already am well versed in the mechanics.
Yep.
So I started a new game. And they let you, this is really cool, and this is why I'm mentioning it, is they let you choose the 3 starting characters. So you won't end up with 4 this time around, you'll end up with 3. But you can re-roll them as many times as you want.
Okay. To
get the stats and perks that you want. So you just keep hitting that refresh button on all 3 characters if you're not getting what you want. And so I made myself, and all of them are girls, and they all had awesome stats and awesome quirks to them. So I was like, I don't think that's a coincidence. I'm just joking. But and then you just you start the game. Your car breaks down, and you just continue the game like you would any other save, which was pretty cool. I liked being able to do that because you kind of get that extra layer of customization. To make sure that, you know, it fits with your play style.
The characters that you have, do you ever gain more throughout the course of the game so that you have a bigger crew?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of one of your goals when you're playing the game is to upgrade to a bigger home base.
Okay.
And in order to do that, you need to collect more people. Like some of them will take, 5 people or 6 people in order to take it over and set up shop.
Okay.
And you also need a certain number of influence, and influence is gained by going out there, doing stuff in the world, helping NPCs, helping other enclaves of survivors, taking out infestations, taking out plague hearts, which are these really gross organic matter things that kind of pop up every once in a while, and they infect the zombies with the blood plague, which can be transferred to your characters. It's very scary.
What happens when one of your characters gets injured or potentially dies? Can you revive them?
Okay, well, if they're injured, you can get them back to base and heal them if you have an infirmary set up and you have the medical materials.
Okay.
You can get them all healed up, but if you die, you die. You did. They gone. They gone.
They gone.
And that actually happened to me. My first playthrough was I lost a character I really, really liked, and I didn't understand how I had lost him.
Okay.
Which kind of brings me to my first complaint about the game.
Okay.
It's still buggy.
Oh, okay.
It's still buggy, but I have more faith in Undead Labs this time around. There's definitely a few bugs that I've experienced. There's some little things that didn't really affect gameplay all that much. Like, it would look like the doors of my safe house were open, but they were actually closed. So I'd be like trying to run in through the doorway, and there'd be like an invisible wall there, and I was like, what is happening? In another instance, I was playing co-op, and my significant other couldn't see my supply locker. It was just like a blank area for him. That was odd. And it didn't happen like the first time we played together. So it was just, but those are like little things that I feel like they can fix. My biggest complaint though, and which I think led to the death of my favorite character in my first playthrough, was the game's AI.
Oh.
The NPCs in this game are like so dumb. They're so dumb. Like, I've had so many experiences where I'm supposed to go and help X person, but X person is for some reason, like, their character is supposed to be at the fire station, but instead they're like running up and down the street. And like, I try and speak to them.
And you can't?
But they keep running. Oh. And so I can't get through the dialogue options. And I'm not, and I'm pretty sure it was their running was triggered by the fact that there was zombies around.
Okay.
But after clearing the area, they were still running, and so that was very frustrating to me, because that just kind of, there's an air of urgency to the game, and so having, wanting to go and finish this quest or do this quest to get, my influence and to potentially, get better reputation with another enclave, was hampered by the fact that this AI was just like, and like doing laps,
Wow.
And
continue, go. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, so sorry. And in another instance, I was called to an enclave, and they told me, hey, this other group of people stole something from us, so I want you to go over there and try and, fix things over with them.
Okay.
And I mean, the game is not cinematic in the sense that, like, when you go to an enclave and accept a quest for them, it doesn't, like, switch to a cutscene or anything like that. The game is still going on. There's just, like, a very small dialogue menu that opens up in, like, the bottom right-hand corner. And so I accepted the quest. I went over to the perpetrator's house, and I thought I had resolved it in an amicable way, but all of a sudden they were all shooting at me. And I didn't understand why, because I had chosen the positive, like the positive dialogue option.
Oh, odd.
And I think that there might have been something else that popped up on the screen, but because there's so much going on at one time,
you couldn't see it.
I couldn't see it, or I missed it, and so that was very, very, very frustrating to me. It was like, wait a second, I took my time and actually read through things, and I still don't know what happened. And that's happened to me a few times in the game, and I wish it didn't. So that is still a big negative to me, is the NPCs and the AI are just, they're not necessarily conducive to the type of gameplay that's necessary to succeed.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's talk about the zombies. What kind of zombies are they? Do I expect them to be like... we've seen Days Gone. We've seen a bunch of zombie games in the past little while that are coming up, and they're more like hordes of zombies, and they're scrambling. And are they that kind of zombie, or are they more like lumbering, like body pieces, just moving around?
So,
are they terrifying?
So you have like different types of zombies.
Yeah.
So you have the basic ones that will just kind of shuffle around, and I find that, and this kind of goes along with the games, like, everything's randomly generated.
Okay.
Sometimes they're a little bit more aggressive or a little bit faster, I think, depending on the time of day, their mood, stuff like that. One hint, one piece of advice: don't go out at night. Don't try and take on infestations or play carts and stuff like that at nighttime, because the zombies get more aggressive. They're out in bigger numbers, stuff like that. But yeah, so you have like the basic zombies. Then you have the blood plague infected zombies, which are a little bit tougher. They're kind of covered in gore, bright red eyes, and they're a little bit more aggressive. And then you have like the specialty zombies. So you've got the Juggernaut, which is this big guy who basically takes... bombs. It takes explosives to take him down, because don't try running him over with a car. I tried that. That didn't work. Then you've got like the bloaters that are these really like literally bloated zombies that when you shoot them, they let off this like cloud of noxious gas. So if you try and like melee them, you're going to get stuck in it and you take damage. So you want to take those off take those out from afar.
That reminds me of the ones in Diablo that like you blow them up and like the little squiggly things come out.
Yeah. And so you've also got like the screamers, which are exactly what they sound like. They scream, they summon other zombies, they stun your character. And my least favorite, and kind of gave me like, it made my blood run cold at first because I didn't realize what it was the ferals. And they're like super fast zombies that like scramble around on all fours.
Oh man.
And they like roar and they'll jump on you and like tackle your character. And I like literally wanted to pee a little bit the first time I was like faced with one of those. I was like, no, and I like ran back to my car. So yeah, there's a lot of different stuff going on, and they spawn randomly, so you're kind of always on the hunt to get rid of different hordes and infestations, and take out that juggernaut before it really causes some damage. So that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Good. So this game, I believe it comes out in full release, but it's also available on Game Pass once it releases too, right?
Yes. So believe that's going to be
the 22nd, 21st.
Yeah, it's the 20-something. It will be available on Game Pass right now. If you have the the special edition of the game, you can boot it up and play. But if you're waiting for Game Pass, you still have a couple days to wait since us recording this. So this time around, the game has co-op.
Ooh, how's that going?
So, the first time I booted up the first State of Decay on Xbox 360, I was like, hey, what would make this game even better? Co-op. And that was literally, like, it was one of those things where I would, not play the game for a long time, I'd forget about it, and then a year later I'd be like, oh man, we should play State of Decay. Because it has co-op. And then I'd boot it up and be like, crap, it doesn't have co-op. Because it just always felt like a game that should have it. And so this time around, Undead Labs went ahead and they added co-op. And I've actually been playing a lot of that with my SO. We've been really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun to run around in the apocalypse with a friend.
Is it split screen or is it you're on individual Xboxes? How does that work?
There is no local co-op. Okay. There's only online co-op at the moment. I know some reviewers are complaining about lag.
Okay.
We haven't experienced it, and I just wonder if it's because we're on the same network and we're playing. Maybe. But yeah, we haven't. I mean, we've experienced a little bit of stuttering when we're in like a vehicle or something like that, but definitely not game breaking or experience ruining. But it is pretty fun, and there's a few things I'd like to point out with the co-op. Is when you're playing with a friend, your loot is different.
Okay.
So basically, when you go around and you're looting items, they'll each have like a color on them. So like yellow or blue, and so people who like the character who has the yellow icon can only get the yellow loot, and the character who has the blue icon can only get the blue loot.
Okay.
And at first I was a little bit annoyed by this, but then I realized that the game has the capability where you can set off a flare and literally open your game to anybody, and anybody can join. So Undead Labs is taking kind of steps to prevent random multiplayer join-ins from ruining your game.
That's smart, because I know I've been playing the Stardew Valley beta with multiplayer, and it's unified inventory, unified money. So if someone decides to go and spend all your money out on useless things, you're screwed.
Exactly. So that the State of Decay 2 doesn't do that to you. When you have a player join you, they can obviously help you loot, but they can only, it's like basically divided into the loot. So, you get 2 pieces of loot, you get 2 pieces of loot sort of deal. They also can't access your modifications for like your base and stuff, so they can't go over and start building a watchtower in your base that you didn't want to build and using all your materials and stuff. So that is kind of frustrating when you're playing with someone that you trust.
Okay.
Like, I would trust my SO to make smart choices.
So you still have to be kind of king of the castle. They end up being kind of just like a helper, and but they don't have choices in some of the major gameplay mechanics.
Exactly.
You still need to control that.
Exactly. They don't have choices, but they do earn things for their own game.
Okay.
By helping you. So they'll rack up influence in items that when they log into their own community, that's what they call them, communities.
Okay.
They'll be able to bring that with them, which is great.
So have you been playing it like back and forth, like an hour on your file, an hour on Adam's file, going back and forth and just like to build it up in tandem? Or is it all just like Adam's, he's your gun for hire?
He's kind of my gun for hire at this point, but that's just because he's been working quite a bit this week. And so he hasn't had the time to like set up his own community.
Okay.
But once he does, we'll definitely be kind of trading off because it's very lucrative. It's very lucrative to be the gun for hire and then go back to your own game and be able to, you know, set things up right away without really having to do anything in your own game.
It's almost like a tutorial mode or a guided tutorial because you don't have to do everything. You can focus on certain things. You're still garnering experience, be that through the assets. I don't know if there's experience points or anything, but like the fact that you can get items and stuff. It's almost like an easier way into the whole game without going full force.
It is. And, you know, and like when I first saw it at face value, I was kind of like, oh, like there's not very much for you guys to do. But then like the more we played and the more we were having fun, I was like, oh, wait, this actually does work. Like this does work as a co-op experience. And yeah, there is kind of an experience thing. They're basically your character has skills that are randomly rolled. And so things like shooting, fighting, cardio, knowledge of medicine or mechanics and stuff like that. And so as you're playing and you're fighting zombies and you're running from place to place, your stars fill up. So, you know, once you get better at cardio and you max out your stars, you have a specialization that pops up. So you can pick one of two specializations for each of like, you know, the fighting, shooting, cardio, stuff like that. And you also find books throughout the world that will let you level up the like specialty skills like medicine and mechanics, gardening, stuff like that, which is pretty cool. And so when you collect survivors, I'm very picky about who I let join my community. Like if you don't have like 2 stars or like 3 stars in shooting, then you're not allowed in.
So you have the control then is like you set up that flare, someone comes in and essentially applies to be part of your community and you either accept them or not?
Sorry, I don't mean in that sense. I mean collecting NPCs for your community.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. But yeah, no, it's honestly, I think it is I wouldn't go so far as to call it unpolished. Because once again, I am playing a review copy of the game. So I was playing the game before, like, you know, any patches were put out to deal with, you know, public concern or bugs or feedback or anything like that. But I expect to see a lot of the things, the little bugs here and there. Like, I've got this one character that sits in a patio chair when I'm not using her, and she shakes. Like, her character model just shakes up and down. It is pretty hilarious.
The reviews, a lot of reviews have come out already. Do you think they're working on patches for this for day one, or do you think it'll take a little longer?
I would say there's going to be, like, when the game comes out on Game Pass, I think there's going to be a small day one patch, but I do think they're going to keep updating the game as it goes. And it is important, I think, to point out that the game is not a $60 game. It's not a full-priced game. Give me 1 second. I want to just...
Yeah, I think it was around the $30 mark or something. It wasn't full price like Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, so the game is not a, and I put this in quote, full priced game. It is $30 to just get the basic game. And I feel like I definitely already got my $30 worth if I were to have paid for it. I'm having so much fun. Like, I am just enjoying the heck out of the game. And I would like to alleviate some people's concerns, because I know I was talking to a few other people who were reviewing the game, and we were kind of talking here and there. The initial map that you spawn on might seem a little bit small, but as you play, you actually unlock more areas.
Okay.
So kind of, you know, keep that in mind. I don't think the initial map is small. I think it's actually rather big, and it's kind of kind of overwhelming because you have to find lookout points and interact with the lookout points to basically find different things on the map. So, a pharmacy over there, a farmhouse over there. And so you're constantly looking for these billboards to unlock all the icons on the map.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to know because it really adds that additional value to Game Pass, especially since it's launching on release day there. Obviously not like the full price game like Sea of Thieves, but still it sounds like it's something that could really suck you in and definitely worth the $10 a month you pay.
Oh, heck yes. I mean, if you have Game Pass and you're looking for a game to play, I don't think you can go wrong with State of Decay 2. I honestly feel a game has a little bit of everything for everyone. And I definitely, at this point in time, recommend it. I've gotten so many hours of fun out of it. If you have a friend that you typically play multiplayer games with that you jive well with, I think that, booting this up and playing it when it comes out on the 21st, which I've just confirmed, is well worth your time.
All right. Well, thanks, Allie. Much appreciated.
Of course.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this highlight from the Girls on Games podcast, you can go subscribe to our show where most podcasts can be found, or find all of our content at girlsongames.ca.